Hey everyone, and welcome to this review note. In this clip, we are going to configure InterVLAN routing using a routing device rather than a layer 3 switch. Got my topology set up, got edge switches, I've got PCs connected in. These are VLAN'd off between staff and guest, so staff can talk to each other, guests cannot. All the traffic is being trunked up onto the distribution switch. If I take a look at PC1, I can ping my partner that's on the staff VLAN. But I cannot ping the PC that's sitting beside me on the switch in the guest VLAN. A couple different things we have to do here. One is configure the router so that it's routing properly. The other is going to be configuring the switch so that it can communicate with the router. In order to make this efficient from a networking perspective, you'll notice we have a single physical connection, and that single physical connection is going to be transporting multiple networks of data, and we're going to do that by tagging the traffic and using VLANs between the switch and the router. Let's get started on that. On my switch, if I look at the IP information I have right now, we'll see that nothing's configured yet. No IP addresses on gigabit 0, 1, or 2. Now, in using VLANs, we use sub-interfaces. I'm not going to configure IP actually on gigabit 0, which is the one that's connected over. Instead, I'm going to configure sub-interfaces of gigabit 0. Those are the ones that are going to have the IP addresses assigned. The way I'm going to do that is say interface gigabit 0/0 dot and then whatever I want that sub-interface to be. In this case, I'm going to make it match up with the VLAN ID. You don't have to make it match up with the VLAN ID, but it's a good practice because it's self-documenting. Once I've done that, I have to configure the encapsulation. The way I do that, encapsulation, and then .1q. There we go. And then an IP address. Okay. Fairly straightforward. We'll do the same thing with subinterface .20. And that's now set up. Last thing we need to do is bring up the interface for that. Interestingly, we bring up the interface gigabit 00, not the sub-interfaces. We'll exit back out of the sub-interface. Gigabit 00. And we'll say no shut, and we can see that the interfaces, in fact, the sub-interfaces are the ones that are brought up. To see the end effect of that, if I look at the IP address assignment, we can see our IP addresses are set on the sub-interfaces. If I look at my routing table, we can see that I know about 10.0 and 20.0. Both of those are directly connected, and we can see that they're connected on the sub-interfaces. That's all we have to do to set up the router. On the switch, because we are sending tag traffic back and forth, we have to set the corresponding port up to be trunked. This is FA00, or sorry, FA01. Let me go over onto my switch. Go into FA01. Set up my encapsulation. Trunk the interface. If I look at my trunking at this point in time, I've now added in FA01 as a trunked interface, so that's enabled, in addition to gigabit 1 and 2, which are the downstream ports going to my edge switches. And that's really all I need to set up for that. The port is still, just came out of STP convergence. Should be at a point now where I can ping from staff up onto my default gateway and also over on the guest. We can see that I'm successfully pinging my default gateway. And once ARP resolves, I should be pinging over onto my guest as well. There we go. And with respect to traffic flow, basically to ping from here to here, what's happening is I have untagged traffic that arrives at the switch. This guy is going to send tag traffic to my distribution switch, which is going to send tag traffic over to my router on VLAN 10. That traffic is going to go through the router and be sent on VLAN 20 back to the switch, which will continue to be tagged and sent down to my edge switch on VLAN 20. Tag will be ripped off, and then untagged traffic sent out to my guest 1. So wrap for the video. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and we'll see you next time.